All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something really special. We're looking way past those standard tourist tropes of ancient Egypt. We're going beyond just marveling at the sheer size of the monuments to reveal the hidden logistics, the brilliant engineering, and honestly, the deeply human stories of the people who actually built this incredible civilization. I am absolutely thrilled you're here to uncover all of this with me. So let's just dive right in, shall we? Here's the roadmap from our journey across the millennia today. We'll start by unlocking Egypt's blueprint. Then we'll look at the pyramid evolution, move on to animal cults and guardians, and finally we'll uncover the forgotten megatombs. Okay, let's jump right into section 1, unlocking Egypt's blueprint, the logistics of mass construction. Before we can even begin to talk about building pyramids, we have to wrap our heads around the staggering scale of resources that made these mega projects possible. Just think about the number 90,000 for a second. Archaeologist Matthew Adams made a totally stunning discovery over at Abydos. He unearthed this massive 5,000-year-old royal brewery, and his team calculated that this single facility was producing close to 90,000 pints of beer every single week. To put that into perspective, that's literally enough beer to hand a pint to every single person in a packed modern-day sports stadium. Pulling that off 5,000 years ago, it's just an unbelievable logistical feat. But wait, here's the really fascinating twist. They didn't find any drinking cups at this massive brewery. None. Instead, what they found were thousands of unstoppered jars that had just been poured out. Because guys, this beer wasn't actually for drinking. Egypt's very first king, Narmer, mobilized hundreds of workers to brew all of this just to pour thousands of liters directly into the sand as a massive royal offering. It was this unmistakable display of industrial power and prosperity. Basically, it set the blueprint for all future pharaohs. If you want to project absolute power, you've got to build on a massive scale. And well, that blueprint evolved into some seriously complex supply chains for later pharaohs like Khufu. Get this, French archaeologist Pierre Tillet discovered the world's oldest known papyri at Wadi el-Jarf, right near the Red Sea. And it revealed this vast, ancient naval base hidden inside 31 caves. So teams of about 160 men would launch boats from these caves, sail all the way across the Red Sea, and mine copper in Sinai. And that copper was absolutely crucial. They needed it to forge the tools required to cut the millions, literally millions, of limestone blocks back at Giza. Moving right along to section 2, the pyramid evolution, chasing the sun. So pyramid design actually didn't start out smooth. Around 2650 BCE, King Djoser built what we call a stepped pyramid. It literally looked like giant steps. But shortly after that, Pharaoh Sneferu experimented with a really radical new design at the Sela pyramid. By using cutting-edge 3D laser scanning data, archaeologist Carrie Molestein confirmed that Sneferu actually transformed a stepped core into a smooth-sided pyramid. And this is a huge deal, because it paved the exact architectural runway for his son, Khufu, to later build the Great Pyramid at Giza. But what's really fascinating here is why they made this change. Sneferu's 52-degree smooth sides, they weren't just some architectural experiment. This was a full-blown religious revolution. See, the Egyptians developed this belief that the pharaoh was the literal descendant of the sun god Ra. So these perfect, smooth, bright white limestone sides were specifically engineered to brilliantly reflect the sun. The whole idea was to make the pyramid look like a physical shaft of sunlight, directly connecting the pharaoh to the heavens. And the engineering behind this solar connection, it actually goes even deeper. Egyptologist Chris Naughton discovered that the Great Sphinx wasn't just a giant guardian statue hanging out in the desert. If you stand in the Sphinx's temple exactly at the equinox sunset, you'll see the Sphinx perfectly aligning with Khafre's pyramid. The sun drops right into the shoulder of the Sphinx and the side of the pyramid, merging their shadows together. It's mind-blowing. It essentially acted as a cosmological resurrection machine, beautifully symbolizing this idea of divine rebirth through the setting sun. Okay, let's transition into section 3, animal cults and guardians, the gods among men. So the Egyptians looked at the natural world around them for inspiration, which resulted in these incredibly powerful hybrid gods. You've got Sekhmet, the fierce lion goddess of the sun. There's Sobek, the crocodile god, tied directly to the Nile's fertility. Anubis, the famous jackal-headed god of the afterlife. And Taweret, the hippopotamus goddess of protection. Basically, the natural world inspired both their absolute fiercest and their most comforting divine protectors. And the amazing thing is, these protectors weren't just reserved for royalty.
At Kubet el Hawa, archaeologist Alejandro Jimenez Serrano discovered 11 mummified crocodiles placed as protectors near a burial. But they weren't guarding a pharaoh. They were actually guarding the humble tree trunk coffin of a poor boy. And this is so important because it perfectly proves that animal cults honoring gods like Sobek weren't strictly for the rich elite. The poorest citizens relied on them too, just hoping for some much-needed divine protection.
Though sometimes the animals buried weren't offerings to gods at all. Over in Luxor, archaeologists found a mummified dog buried right at the feet of two human mummies, and an inscription actually revealed the dog's name was Hekin. This wasn't some religious sacrifice. Hekin was a beloved family pet, carefully mummified so she could literally keep her owners company on their long journey into eternity. I mean, how sweet is that? It's just a deeply touching reminder of our shared humanity. And that same humanity is echoed in a really remote quarry at Jebel el Silsila. Archaeologist Maria Nilsson found this faint, hidden sketch of the hippo goddess Tauret carved into a rock face. It actually dates back to the reign of Akhenaten, a pharaoh who banned all animal gods during this fierce religious purge. So picture this, a terrified, everyday quarry laborer secretly sketched Tauret, basically begging for personal safety in a really dangerous workplace. Finding this hidden personal wish for protection, well, as archaeologist Maria Nilsson put it, it's like shaking the ancients directly in their hands. All right, that brings us to section 4, the forgotten megatombs, the lost Middle Kingdom. This introduces a really fascinating central mystery. Why on earth did an entire golden age of Egyptian megatombs just completely vanish? Think about it. The pharaohs of the Middle Kingdom successfully reunited a chaotic, war-torn Egypt, and they ushered in this massive era of prosperity and power. And yet, they left a seemingly invisible architectural footprint compared to the kings of Giza. What happened? Well, the answer starts with where they decided to build. Instead of building towering mountains of stone reaching way up into the sky, early Middle Kingdom pharaohs hid their spectacular rock-cut tombs deep inside the bedrock. Take Pharaoh Senusret III, for example. He carved a jaw-dropping 600-foot-long snaking tunnel deep underground at Abydos. It was literally designed to be a physical model of the underworld. And get this, he sealed his burial chamber behind 300 tons of solid red granite. It was absolutely spectacular, but completely hidden from the surface. And this new prosperity? It spread way beyond just the pharaohs. To govern their rapidly expanding territory, Middle Kingdom kings used a pretty brilliant political strategy. They started rewarding loyal frontier governors with lavish, monumentally scaled tombs, just to keep them happy and maintain control. Like, the elite tomb of Governor Serenput in Aswan was considered so important that the pharaoh actually sent his personal, highly skilled royal artisans down to carve it for him. The elite were gaining incredible power, and with that, incredible tombs. Eventually, later Middle Kingdom pharaohs like Amenemhat III tried to return to building those massive classic pyramids, but the construction methods had completely changed by then. See, Old Kingdom pyramids were built with solid limestone blocks sitting on solid bedrock. Middle Kingdom pyramids? They were built with cheap, light mud brick cores sitting on soft floodplains. So you can probably guess what happened. The groundwater eventually cracked the clay beneath Amenemhat's Black Pyramid, causing the whole thing to structurally fail. Over the millennia, that mud brick simply dissolved and weathered away, completely erasing their legacy. So, what does this all mean for us? The crucial point we arrive at is this. We constantly marvel at the enduring stone monuments like the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. But what other breathtaking wonders? Wonders built of mud, sand, and the deeply held faith of everyday people. Has time completely erased? It's definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those big questions, keep looking past the surface, and I'll see you next time as we continue to uncover history together.